Your town, your station, your voice. Afternoons on Calon FM. Listen online at calon.fm.
Flower of Scotland from the Red Hot Chilli Pipers, and Willie Armstrong of the Red Hot Chilli Pipers is standing by. Let's not keep him waiting.
What's the buzz? Tell me what's happening. 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 I'm going downtown tonight. What's going on?
The Red Hot Chilli Pipers are a Celtic rock band from Scotland, formed in 2002. They became popular internationally in 2007 after winning the BBC talent show When Will I Be Famous, hosted by Graham Norton. Some famous fans that include Ewan McGregor, Sir Paul McCartney, Sir Alex Ferguson, and indeed the Scottish rugby team and Her Majesty the Queen, and me. The Red Hot Chilli Pipers have never been in more demand for their infectious style of feel-good music, which appeals right across the age range of people all over the world. They have a pool of the very best musicians from Scotland and across the globe, many holding world champion titles and all serious players with impressive credentials and qualifications. And if that's not enough, they have gold discs for over 100,000 UK sales of their first album, Bag Rock to the Masses, awarded twice for Best Live Act in Scotland, triple platinum award status for their third album and DVD, Blast Live, and a big-hearted Scotland nomination for their work for charities worldwide. And I am so thrilled to be joined by their founding member, Mr. Willie Armstrong of the Red Hot Chilli Pipers, and he joins me on the line now. And Willie, I've got to tell you right from the get-go that I've been a huge fan of the Red Hot Chilli Pipers for far too long, and it's not that often that I get the opportunity to speak to somebody that I genuinely admire. So I appreciate that. I suppose you get that a lot, do you, these days?
Not really, no. It's probably just because we've been in lockdown and all that. Just nothing's been happening in the last 18 months, 2 years. It's just such a joy now to be able to play our instruments in front of a live audience. It's been, I think for everybody, it's been a very, very trying period, but more especially the creative art, the music industry have been really badly affected. So it's just really good that we're able to go out and do this safely in an environment where you're enjoying yourself and the crowd's enjoying themselves. It's just amazing.
Absolutely, yeah. And pre-COVID, you were notching over 200 gigs a year, which is that's more than one every other night. That's quite incredible, really. But to suddenly have that ripped away from you, I mean that upsets the apple cart in more ways than one, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm always very careful when I get asked the question, because obviously people are an awful lot worse off than me, and I wasn't affected. My health wasn't affected, and nobody in my close family was affected by the COVID thing. So obviously I'm very pragmatic. I just think that people have lost their loved ones here during this. So there was no point in me banging on about how badly I've been affected, because to be honest, all I was out of was a lot of money and my main means I earned the living. But apart from that, I was okay. I didn't have any health issues. So
yeah.
I count my blessings.
Yes, absolutely. I'm in the same boat as you. I live in quite a nice part of the world as well, in North Wales, and there's always somebody in a worse position. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So where does it start for you? And presumably you start playing the bagpipes as a child, do you? Is that when you pick them up?
Yeah, most musicians who get to a decent stage of playing an instrument will probably start in their formative years. So from about 7 or 8, when your hands are big enough to play the practice chanter, most of my guys, and myself included, would start there, and then you go on and you go up to the actual set of bagpipes. The bagpipes, they say, it was actually published about 6 months ago. The bagpipes are the hardest musical instrument to learn and master. So it is quite a. Even now, I would say I'm still learning every now and again. I pick up something else and say, well, I never knew that.
Yeah.
So they say it takes a good 15 years to be kind of proficient at what you're doing, and there's all sorts of things you need to watch. You need to watch your blowing. You need to make sure your pipes are in tune. Obviously, you need to do the rudiments and your finger work and everything else. Like if you're playing a piano, you need to do your rudiments and your scales. Exactly the same for bagpipes. So it's quite a difficult instrument to master, and I don't really pull any punches. When I'm asked that, some people say, would you be able to teach me how to play Scotland the Brave or something like that? I say, yeah, no problem. I need to do it for next week because it's my granny's birthday. And I think that's impossible.
Yeah. I was going to say, you must have quite understanding parents.
Yeah. No, my dad was a musician and my granddad played pipes, so it was in my family. But yeah, I can understand it. I remember when I was learning, we had a wee dog called Patsy, and it obviously upset her. The sound of the pipes upset her, but she used to stand beside me as I was learning. You could imagine the cacophony of sound that would stand there with her head to the side and while I was learning.
Oh well, I mean,
bagpipes.
all I've got 3 kids and they've all played different instruments, but my son played the violin, so I'm completely on board with that sentiment. That's no worries. Did you play any other instruments, or was bagpipes always your thing?
No, I played a wee bit of snare drum when I first started in the pipe bands, but I don't really play that at all. Just bagpipes. I think when you've got a brain like me, you stick to one thing and don't dabble in too many lines.
Fair enough. And I read somewhere that you formerly were in the Navy and then in the fire service. Two jobs famously for. You need to be quite a fit individual for that, and I presume, from what I can gather, you need quite a good stamina to play the bagpipes. Is that fair?
I think so. Yeah. Again, like everything else, so it becomes like everybody else who plays an instrument or does something daily. Even sports people, it becomes kind of more like unconscious competence, and your body gets attuned to it. One of the things that happened after the lockdown. I hadn't played my pipes for a while. I played my chanter, my practice chanter in the house, but I hadn't really picked up my pipes. And when I first picked them up, the first thing that I noticed was that my lips, because obviously your lips grip onto the mouthpiece, that was the first thing I noticed, that all the muscle that I'd used in my lips to grip the mouthpiece had gone. Right. So I wasn't able to create a seal around the mouthpiece as efficiently as I should. And that took a good 3 or 4 weeks to come back. But just like everything else, you get used to it. I'm not going to say, it's so difficult and what we go through. But when you're doing it for an hour and a half, 2 hours every single day, it becomes easy. I think if you look at any musician on stage playing an instrument, they make it look ridiculously easy. And the reason why they make it look ridiculously easy, because I've done it a million times. It's repetitive over and over and over. It's quite a difficult instrument to play. It is very physical, but you get used to it.
Practice definitely makes perfect, right?
They always say, don't practice until you get it right. Practice until you cannot get it wrong.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually. I might use that.
That's a whole different ballgame, practicing until you can't get it wrong. I spoke to Nigel Kennedy at Proms in the Park, and he was the one that told me that.
Yeah. Well, I worked as an actor for a while, as a professional actor, and I always used to say to my students that I always used to try and put myself off. And if you can remember your lines when you're being put off, you can remember your lines.
Yeah, that's it. Yep, that's exactly it.
So that's Oh, that's great. I like that. I'm going to take that away from this interview.
Yeah, practice until you can't get it wrong.
Fantastic, wonderful. And I suppose we better talk about the Red Hot Chili Pipers. I mean, first things first. I mean, we'll take these things in order. The name is fantastic. The person who came up with that name, did they get a pay rise? Did they get a round of applause? How did it work?
It's a good story. That one of my good friends, Stuart Casillas, who was the original member of the band, he stayed in a flat in Glasgow, and he was clearing up his CDs one day, and he said to his girlfriend at the time, Jill, he was like, how you handle this? I'm going to put them all in genre order. So one pile for rock and pop, another pile for traditional music. Stuart always had a lot of traditional music CDs. So Jill went away and done it. And the next day, Stuart picked a Red Hot Chilli Pipers CD off the traditional music pile. And he said to Jill, what did you put that in there for? That's in the wrong pile. That should be in rock and pop. And Jill said, oh, sorry, I misread that. I thought that said Red Hot Chilli Pipers. That's the accident that formed the name.
Well, that's fantastic. Have you had any interaction with the Red Hot Chili Peppers? Have they got in contact with you
I
about
remember we played at Tea in the Park, the big festival up here in Scotland, and with the Darkness. It was the time when David Bowie, he was meant to be headlining, and he was taking ill, so the Darkness jumped in, and they asked us to go on stage and play Love in the Rocks, the Darkness version, not the Neil Diamond version, with the bagpipes. And the next year, it was the Peppers that were headlining Tea in the Park, and the interviewer had said to the guy Flea, did you know there was a band called the Red Hot Chilli Pipers? And his answer was, I thought that was quite good. His answer was, yeah, they played here last year and we heard they were better than the Darkness. But it clearly wasn't true, I've got to add.
So was it because of the Darkness that you went down the rock sort of genre, or were you already going that way?
No, as you probably know, being an ex-actor, you do these things and you play your bagpipes, and it's bagpipes are bagpipes. It's most people that would listen to traditionally played bagpipes would be other bagpipe players or people who are aficionados of bagpipe music or traditional music. But then if you're playing your bagpipes at a wedding, then there's very few people there who will be aficionados of bagpipe or traditional music. Yeah. Far less would be fellow bagpipe players. So it was. We decided that we had a company called. We bought the first domain name. Red Hot. It was at ScottishBagpiper.com, and the domain names first came out 24 years ago. And we started doing weddings and made a lot of contracts for big hotels. And we noticed that if you're playing traditional tunes in your pipes, very, very shortly after that, the audience will start to switch off. Yep. So we walk around with different segues into rock, well-known rock tunes like Will Rock You, Survivor, Eye of the Tiger, all that stuff. And that picked our ears up. So we thought, well, maybe we're onto something here. And it just became, it kind of grew. We won the TV show When Will I Be Famous in 2005, was that 15 years ago? And obviously it kind of absolutely snowballed after that. And we find that as a musician, always try and watch your audience. Don't look at your feet. Very few musicians would do that, I've got to say. But you're there to please an audience. They've paid £30 or £35, $35 to come see you. So you really have the weight of the world on your shoulders, because you have to entertain these people, and it's a duty of care. I always feel you've got to your audience to make sure that they're entertained. So some of these things you try and they don't work. Some of the things you try, they do work. So obviously you keep the things that work in your set list, and again, it grows organically from there. Yeah.
Absolutely. And now you're back, and you're on a world tour, and the pipes, to me, the bagpipes seem to be a predominantly Scottish phenomenon, really, but they're so popular all over the world. Is that right?
Yeah, so there's different types of bagpipes, and they aren't actually Scottish. The Highland bagpipe, you could say, was in Scotland. But the actual bagpipe, the concept of the bag under your arm to give you a flow of air, that comes from the Middle East, I think. And there's all sorts of different bagpipes throughout the world. Obviously, you've got your Irish pipe, your Coleman pipe, you get Galician pipes, Spain, from northern Spain. But all the Celtic regions seem to have developed some form of bagpipe. But yeah, the actual Highland bagpipe is synonymous with Scotland, but it's got such a massive worldwide, like Australia, New Zealand, America, Germany. The Dudelsack in Germany is huge for the German people. So I don't know what it is. I think the bagpipe is a very emotive instrument. If it's played well, you can have people crying. Yeah. If you're playing a slow air, if it's in tune, you get the lovely reverb coming through the chant, and all the drones are buzzing. It can be a very personal, emotive instrument. Yeah. But in the next bar, if you change up to a rig or a jig or a reel, then you can have them stamping their feet and clapping joyously to the music. So I would probably say that although you can do that with other instruments, I think the bagpipe is the one that can do that most efficiently. Absolutely,
and I suppose the old adage. I mean, great music is it's bilingual, isn't it? I mean, it's the same in any language.
Yeah, I think as well they have to. I mean, we can all agree it has to be well played. You can't be going on stage and if you're not at a decent level before you start. Yeah. You can't be going on stage with your instrument out of tune and playing it really, really badly. Very few bands nowadays can get away with that. Again, let's not forget, live music's back with an absolute bang. Mm-hmm. Previously, there was bands in the 80s when I was brought up with live music. Some of these bands didn't tour because they could earn their revenues from their record sales alone. You can't do that now. You have to tour. So the competition out there for live music and well-played live music is huge. So you have to invest in your sound engineers, your actual PA, your equipment, your sound desks, your front of house engineers. All that has to be heavily invested because there's so much competition. And I think it's good. And I think it's a good thing that live music is so good. The last band I went to see before lockdown was in 1975 in the Hydro in Glasgow. And I was just in awe, not just the actual musicianship, but the production values on that show. And it was money well spent. And I think that's the bar is set that high now for live music. Whereas before in the early 80s to when I started first listening to live music, it wasn't always the case. Some of the bands were terrible.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you, because I've always been a big fan of Status Quo, and I think that's why I'm kind of drawn to you guys, because the Status Quo have an element of that driving rock music, but there's an element of humour.
You don't take it too seriously.
Yeah, and it's so exhilarating when it's done, as you say, when it's done right. It's amazing, actually. And I was going to say to you that doing a bit of research on you over the last few days, and it's a bit like, for me, it was a bit like, you know, when you go to your mother's house and you're looking through old photographs and you know you're supposed to be sorting them out, but you can't stop but look. You can't. I mean, your YouTube videos, I mean, I was just watching them all. You can't turn them off halfway through. It's just unbelievable. So how do you decide what to play? I mean, it seems like nothing's off the table, really.
Well, don't forget, on the bagpipes, we only get one octave. We get 9 notes, so just one note above one octave. So you're in B flat, the concert pitch scale. So you are kind of limited in what you can do with that. The other thing is, you have to try and avoid at all costs karaoke bagpipes. Andy could do that. You could just say, can you play that in the bagpipes? And you probably could fit most tunes in. But that's not the way it works. We always, because all our musicians are all classically trained. So these guys are all graduates of RSAND, Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama, or the Conservatoire, as it's now called in Glasgow. They've all played in top grade 1 pipe bands, or the actual backline, the bass players and the guitarists and the kit drummers. These guys are all top-notch musicians. So you can't really be in a studio with them and be expected to be taken seriously if you say, right, okay, guys, let's do We Will Rock You from start to finish. That won't work. And it doesn't work for them. It doesn't work for me. It certainly won't work for an audience, because you're just pulling the wool over their eyes. I mean, if you wanted to go and listen to that kind of stuff, just go to a karaoke bar. What we try and do is we call it the musical segue, which is you intermingle the traditional music with the rock and pop covers, and that's always been successful, because you'll introduce more people to the actual sound of the Highland bagpipe, but also you'll introduce more people to the rock band experience, and I think that's where the success is. And people, you see people a lot that have come back for more and more and more. They're practically members of the family. You can see them all in the audience, and they've come back because they just love the live show. The live show for me is it's full of energy. It's electric. I've got to say that I'm part of it, obviously, but I do say that our movement and the way we dress on stage, like a mini pipe band, red forms, black kilts, everybody dressed the same, is part of the whole vibe when you go and see the live performance. Absolutely.
And I was going to mention to you about the image. The image is quite. It's quite a cool an image that you've got for yourselves there. I remember years ago, actually, AC/DC. I mean, this would have been in the late 70s. The track "Long Way to the Top" if you want to rock and roll, and the bagpipes kick in, and I remember thinking, oh, that's a bit weird. But now it's like the best part of the song. It's.
He played bagpipes. The laddie that done was it Bon Scott, the guy that he's got a big statue for him as well up in Scotland. Right. We actually play that tune with that bagpipe lick in it. Well, obviously because it's bagpipes, but yeah, I always find that fascinating. I can remember my dad listening to that in the late 70s, and he says, "Aye, that's the way the bagpipes should be played." And I was like, "Right, cool." And it went right out my head until 20 years ago when we started doing the Red Hot Chilli Pipers stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely, and I suppose I better ask you about your new album. It's I say new. It came out in 2019, but we're not. No one's including the last 18 months, so we'll call it new. Yeah. It's called Fresh Air. It's a brand new studio album. Tell us about it. What can we expect?
Again, lots of rock and pop in there, but I always try and keep it 50-50 between that and traditional, well-played traditional tunes. And we called it Fresh Air because we had a lot of new, younger people coming in and join the band. A couple of stalwarts left. They actually left and joined the police, Dougie and Stav. And then Gary, I helped him. He joined the fire brigade. But we had a lot of fresh ideas, a lot of fresh impudence. So we thought that we should put these down in a live album. In a studio album. But the good news is as well, We're now working, as we speak, we're working on a live album with new ideas and that'll be recorded over the Scottish tour. So there's 7 gigs up here in Scotland over the month of December, finishing in Alhambra and Dunfermline, and we're going to record these gigs and put them into a live album, which will be released next year, 2022, for our 20th anniversary.
Fantastic. You're actually going to my son's. He's at the Royal Northern College of Music in Manchester, and you're playing there. I noticed, so I'm gonna urge him to go see you. Willie, it's great to have you back on the road doing what you do best, man. And it's been a pleasure speaking to you this afternoon. Thanks so much for that.
Thanks very much. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. You take care of yourself.
Thanks, man. You too.
Cheers.
Okay, catch you later. Bye.
Bye. So there you go, Willie Armstrong of the Red Hot Chilli Pipers, as he says, about to embark on their 20th anniversary tour next year. But before that, on Friday the 26th of November, for us Wrexhamites and anybody in the Northwest, they will be playing the Northwich Memorial Hall. That's on Friday the 26th of November, just a couple of weeks. The box office number 01606 261100, 01606 261100. The Red Hot Chilli Pipers. Does it get much better than that?
It's the Andy Snowden Radio Show. It's the Andy Snowden Radio Show. It's the Andy Snowden Radio Show. It's the Andy Snowden Radio Show.